If any of our beloved listeners can make any sense out of that paragraph, you win a free year of Armed Lutheran Radio listenership.
You get to listen to the next year of Armed Lutheran Radio free of charge.
Pistols, prayer, and potluck. This is Armed Lutheran Radio.
Hi, folks. Welcome to Armed Lutheran Radio, a podcast about guns, hunting, competitive shooting, the natural right of self-defense, and what God's Word says about the issues surrounding gun rights and gun ownership. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, and this is episode number 267. Thank you so much for making Armed Lutheran Radio a part of your week again this week. And for those of you who are new to the show, welcome aboard. I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope you will stick around for more in the future. Today we have a variety show for you. For those who are new, basically what we do is typically every other week we switch up our format, and we have a variety show 1 week with content from the members of our cast, Mia Anstein, Sergeant Bill Sylvia, and Pastor John Bennett. And then on opposite weeks, Pastor John Bennett and I get together for what we call Clinging to God and Guns. We just got finished with 3 weeks of craziness, a three-part Clinging to God and Guns show. Ran a lot longer than I had expected, and so we're making up for lost time with 2 straight weeks of variety shows. So another variety show for you guys today. But before we begin, I do want to thank the men and women who make this show possible, the members of what we call the Reformation Gun Club. Armed Lutheran Radio is listener-funded, and that means that we rely on the monthly and yearly contributions of our members. We have no advertising. We have no sponsors. This little plug is as much of an advertisement or a sponsorship announcement as you're going to hear. Today, I do want to give a special shout-out to Derek from Huntsville, Alabama, Drew from Excelsior Springs, Missouri, Gordon, James, our seminarian from Fort Wayne, Indiana, Kurt from Rialto, California, and Sue from Conover, North Carolina. Thank you all so much, and for all of the members of the Reformation Gun Club for what you do to make this show possible. We really do appreciate it. As I said, the show is listener-funded, no advertising, no sponsors. To keep doing what we do, we rely on these great people, and you can be one of them. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to hundreds of hours of exclusive content on our website, your own RSS feed to access all of that information, invitations to monthly online hangouts, access, like I said, to the cool website, and we have a new podcast. The Reformation Gun Club Good Time Happy Hour kicked off a couple of weeks ago. It's a 15 to 20-minute show every week. We talk about all kinds of things. Guns, life, news, politics, gun rights, theology, whatever comes to mind that week, we talk about it. Last week we talked about adult beverages, and next week we're going to be talking about a string of gun store robberies that took place here in Texas recently. It's a little more lighthearted and fun, just me and adult beverage and a different topic every week. And it's available now only for Reformation Gun Club members. So if you would like to hear those episodes, if you would like to support the show, come and join us. Check out all the benefits and the exclusive content available to members by going to armedlutheran.us/gun club. All right, like I said, this week we have another variety show with a new motivation from Mia and a new ballistic minute from Sergeant Bill. Pastor Bennett could not be with us this week because of another death in their congregation. So we have a classic Pontification from episode 187. Please keep Pastor Bennett and the congregation at St. John's Lutheran Church in Willow Creek, Minnesota in your prayers. It's been a tough couple of weeks. Before we get started, though, before I go any further and turn all of this over to the cast, I want to take a minute to talk about one of our cast members, Mia Anstein. I want to congratulate her for being selected, recognized as the Safari Club International's President's Awards winner for 2021. She was named Regional Representative of the Year in February, and at the May meeting, Mia was announced as the President's Award winner as well. She does amazing work to promote conservation and hunting and fishing and shooting and the outdoor sports. And SCI is just one of the great groups that she volunteers for. Go over to Mia's YouTube channel, check out the video where she unboxes the award. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. It's sweet. It's emotional. I'm really happy for her. I'm really proud of her. I'm honored to have her as a member of this cast, and more importantly, I'm honored to be able to call her a friend. I'm proud of her efforts and her achievements, which are well-deserved, and I hope you'll pop over to her YouTube channel, over to her website or to her Facebook page, and just let her know how much you appreciate all the work that she does for our rights in so many different ways, from the DC Project to NRA to all the articles that she writes and the work that she does for Safari Club International. So, again, congratulations, Mia, and for those of you listeners, be sure to take a minute and just let her know how much you appreciate her. All right, that is enough babbling from me today. Next week, episode 268, will be another Clinging to God and Guns show with Pastor Bennett. And so sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show. I will talk to you again next week.
Time now for Mia's Motivations with Mia Anstein.
Hi there, it's Mia Anstein visiting with you again. It seems like it's been forever since I've visited with you guys. Lloyd has been having a blast, and wow, I've been thankful for a little bit of a break because I've been super busy. I have traveled to Washington, D.C. with the D.C. Project, which I've mentioned in prior episodes, and I met with legislators there, several legislators and aides from the Senate and from the House. And while we were there, we wanted to do what we always do, and that's give a face to gun owners. And it's a different face than what most people kind of think of as a gun owner. The faces of women, and we are from all walks of life, all ethnicities, and all political backgrounds. So it was something that I always enjoy, and I was excited to go because it's been quite a while since I've been out and about and politicking, I guess you could say. After I got back from D.C., or actually in between DC and my next trip, we actually have been working on a bunch of shuffling around in residences, and my office has been moved. So I am settling down into a new place. But while I was in DC, my stuff was getting moved. And then when I got back, I had to head up to Grand Junction, where I was scheduled to teach basic archery and an introduction to bow hunting at the A Girl and a Gun conference. And that's something I was scheduled to do in 2020, but because of the pandemic, it was canceled, and I actually did a virtual archery course just for basic last year. If you are interested in that, direct message me either on social media, or you can email me. My email address is contact@miaanstein.com. I will send you a virtual course if you're interested. But up there, I headed up a little bit early to the A Girl and a Gun conference because they asked that I would be their keynote speaker for the opening night of their leadership summit, which was really cool. I was quite honored that they requested that I be there, and I happened to talk about guns and politics and the DC Project, and I really encouraged everybody to just get involved, which is what I'm doing here today with you all, is I want you to get involved. I know I talk about it all the time, but oh my goodness, we are getting beat up so bad in so many places, on a local level, on a state level, on a national level. And so we need to start stepping up and stepping out and getting things done. One thing you can do, and I know that the Pistol Packin' Padre has talked about this, but run for school boards, run for local offices. It's something that if you have it in your heart, if you can find a way to do it, get out there and do it, because my goodness, we're being attacked on all levels, not just on a Second Amendment level. So I also want to talk to you about a girl and a gun and ask you if you're a female listener, or if you are a man and the woman in your life happens to shoot guns, or if she wants to learn. A Girl and a Gun Club is a great organization. I met Juliana Crowder, who is the founder. I met her about 10 years ago at SHOT Show, and we were waiting to be interviewed for some segments that the NRA did for the new energy trailers that they used to do for NRA women. And so I met her way back when. She thought that more women should learn how to shoot, and so she created a Girl and a Gun Club, and it's just skyrocketed. And so if you are wanting to learn how to shoot, you can look to a Girl and a Gun Club. Or if you already shoot, you can look at forming a chapter or combining with a local chapter and creating events in conjunction with a Girl and a Gun Club. As I said, I teach archery for them, and it's something that I really enjoy. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about and I call it a club, but it's a shooting league. It's the firearm industry's first large-scale chapter-based women's organization, and it was the 9th annual national conference that I went and helped at. It was held at the Cameo Shooting Complex up in Grand Junction, or just outside of Grand Junction, Colorado, and it was my first time to go to Cameo. If you haven't been there, check that out. That's just a side note. Their event, it was sold out, and it hosted more than 600 of the A Girl and a Gun members, their sponsors, staff, and other people that needed to help out there. Something that interested me, and it's something that I have talked about before, about ages of people when they should shoot. But this year, that conference, they called it RISE, and the RISE conference had women from 12 years old to 77 years old, and they each had different goals for either self-defense or recreational shooting and so forth. And one thing about that age is, as a parent, you need to know the maturity of your youngster. And as an instructor, you have to line things out if things get out of hand at your range. I'm going to talk about that in a future episode. But it was interesting to me that they do have that 12-year-old age at the bottom and 77. I'm sure they would have higher if there were people of older ages at the conference. That just happens to be the oldest age that was there. But a 12-year-old in Colorado, that is an age where you can go get your hunter education. So it's a great thing. And as long as the youngster is mature enough, hey, get on out there and teach them how to shoot. Another demographic is there were 96 A Girl and a Gun chapters from 35 different states that were represented at the RISE conference. They were able to choose from 250 classes. That is insane. 250 classes during this week up there. And they touted that the classes were run by 54 of the nation's top firearms instructors. Training classes ran for over 3 days with an additional 2 days of lectures and leadership development. The event also included a vendor day with 49 brands, including Glock, CZ USA, Walther, USCCA, XS Sights, Primary Arms, Stag Arms, Heckler & Koch, US Law Shield, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation was there. There were just tons. So it was really cool, and it was an amazing event. And as I said, that Cameo shooting complex held everything. Robin Sandoval, she is the A Girl and a Gun executive director. She said, the firearms industry is not only providing superior products for women, but also providing opportunities for training and helping A Girl and a Gun members grow in skill and confidence. Glock's National Director of Training, Willie Parent, CZ USA Field Sports Brand Manager Dave Miller, and Walther's Tatiana Whitlock, Jim Dexler, and Gabby Franco, they were all among the all-star instructors that were there. One of the evenings, which I didn't go to this event because I felt it was more of an attendee event, but the representative, Lauren Boebert, who is Colorado's congressman, she was there and she welcomed attendees to her home state of Colorado. And this was the first A Girl and a Gun conference to be hosted outside of Texas. And on a side note, Lauren Boebert hosted us, the Women of the DC Project, while we're in Washington, D.C., at the Second Amendment Caucus, and it was great to be there. I will possibly talk about that in a future episode. If you would like to see more about that, visit my website, miaanstein.com. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a brief kind of overview of A Girl and a Gun and what they're about. They are successful at providing stepping stones for thousands of women and who are entering the shooting sports community, and they foster their love of shooting, and they care for their members, and they have qualified instructors who coach them. They do require their instructors to go through a certification before they are allowed to start a chapter, and that impresses me because it's not just, hey, here you go, and out you go the door and don't know how to teach. If you would like to learn more about A Girl and a Gun, go to agirlandagun.org. And you can learn more there. And I will talk to you next time. I hope you're all doing great. Bye.
You can read more from Mia, watch her YouTube videos, or check out her podcast, Mac Outdoors with Mia and Leah, at miaanstein.com. Time now for another Ballistic Minute with Sergeant Bill Sylvia.
Hey everybody, I'm Sergeant Bill. This is your Ballistic Minute. Today I want to talk to you about picking the right tool for the job. Guns are tools. They're only useful in the hands of a skilled person who knows how to use them. So that's why we practice, that's why we train, that's why we compete. But you got to pick the right tool for the job. And what I mean by that is, you can pick a rifle, a shotgun, or a pistol. Each one has a definitive purpose. Some of them kind of overlap on others, but they all have reasons for being, and you have to pick the right tool for the job. A lot of people get too wrapped up in their equipment, in their firearm choice. You know, people will say, I'm a 1911 guy, or I'm a Glock guy, or whatever. It's really silly, because picking a specific gun or specific manufacturer and then just being stuck with the notion that they're the end-all be-all is really kind of stupid. If you go into your toolbox, you don't have all your tools that are the same. Even professional mechanics have different tools. They don't have all Snap-on or all Stanley or all Craftsman. They may have a mixture of them because they find the right tool for the job. So if you've got a rifle, it's a long-range weapon. It's a long-range tool. You use it mostly for hunting or for target shooting for longer ranges. If you use a shotgun, it's a short to medium range weapon. You can use it for hunting, for bird hunting, or even medium size, or even large size animals. I know lots of guys that have shot deer with slugs out of a shotgun. And you can use it for self-defense or home defense. And then there's pistols. They're short range weapons, for the most part, comparatively to both shotguns and rifles. And they're mostly used for self-defense, carry, or for competition. Now, most competitive games have different categories based upon different guns and different types of guns and actions and this and that. And some people will just pick one and stick with it because that's what they do and that's all they want to do. But it's not really a smart thing to do. If you shoot a Glock 34 in competition and then carry a Glock 19 or a Glock 43, then they're similar, but they're kind of different. I'm not saying you should just shoot your carry gear if that's what you're shooting pistol competitions for, which isn't a bad idea, but you don't have to be stuck with just shooting a Glock because you carry a Glock or a SIG because you carry a SIG. Shooting is shooting. They're all basic fundamentals that all relate to each other. So if you get good at shooting a SIG 320 Legion, doesn't mean you can't shoot a Glock very well. Or if you shoot a Glock in competition, doesn't mean you can't carry a J-frame revolver and shoot it well. The fundamentals is what you're practicing and what you're getting better at. The better you get at it, the easier it is for you to run any gun, whether it's a rifle, shotgun, or pistol. So when I tell people I shoot competition, the main reason I shoot competition is to get better, to shoot that gun and that gear better. Because I know shooting competition guns are going to make me better for shooting my carry guns or my work guns or anything else. So don't get stuck being a Glock guy or a 1911 guy or a SIG guy or a revolver guy or a rifle guy or any of that kind of stuff. Learn from history. One of my favorite books of all times is The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, who was one of the greatest and most successful samurai sword fighters of all time. Some of his quotes that I've learned from over the years are as follows. Number 1, do not collect weapons or practice with weapons beyond what is useful. Number 2, you should not have any special fondness for a particular weapon. Sound familiar? Number 3, you should not have a favorite weapon. To become overly familiar with one weapon is as much a fault as not knowing it sufficiently well. So continue practicing, shoot some of your other guns, work on your fundamentals, keep doing dry fire, because if you're like me, I'm running out of ammo. Stay safe and keep improving. I'm Sergeant Bill. This has been your Ballistic Minute.
Sergeant Bill Sylvia is a veteran of the Dallas Police Force and a masterclass competitive shooter. You can check out his YouTube videos at armedlutheran.us/Sergeant Bill. It's time for Pastoral Pontifications with Pastor John Bennett.
Hello and welcome to another installment of Pastoral Pontifications. Today I have something for you to consider. If we are to be successful in preserving our Second Amendment rights, does this not require us to change the hearts and minds of some who presently support gun control? I don't know about you, but I'm not content to simply say, let's just work with what we've got. Because if we don't try to expand our support base, gun control advocates will keep steadily marching on until they get their way. So how do we change hearts and minds? Now, to be fair, there are quite a number of people that I would call the unreachables. These are the ones that are, quite frankly, never going to change their minds. These are the dyed-in-the-wool cultural Marxists that think the government is the answer to everything, and they will never be convinced of the veracity of the Second Amendment and its importance to the preservation of a free and civilized society. These are the ones that we often refer to on this show of having leftism as their primary religion. These are the Shannon Watts, the Michael Bloombergs, and the David Hoggs of this world. These people and people who think like them live in an intellectual vacuum and echo chamber. They only associate with those who agree with them and presume to tell ordinary free-thinking Americans how they ought to think when it comes to their own gun rights, or more accurately, these leftists' agenda to eliminate our gun rights. These are the true believers who aren't shy about their belief that private citizens can't be trusted to responsibly own or use quote-unquote weapons of war, which is just another synonym for guns that look scary or guns that have those thingies that hold lots of bullets. Those are the unreachables. Now, along with them, we have the politicrats, people like Robert Francis O'Rourke, a.k.a. Beto, a.k.a. Roberta, who will push their gun control narrative because they see it as a means to an end, that end being political power. When they're running for a general election and want to appear as moderates, they will say anything like this.
If you purchase that AR-15, if you own it, keep it. Continue to use it responsibly.
Yes, you heard that right. That is Beto from last year's Senate campaign in Texas. However, when they're running amid a sea of the most radically left candidates we've ever seen in this country's history, and they need to stand out amongst them, they'll say anything that they have to in order to get a bump in the polls, like Beto saying in the last debate,
"Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
To which many of you, like myself, are raising our voices with Borat.
You will never get this. You will never get this. La 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 la.
All joking aside, those aren't the people that we are trying to reach. Reflecting back on August's Reformation Gun Club hangout, and yes, there is a shameless plug. If you haven't yet joined the Reformation Gun Club, I encourage you to do so. In that hangout, a comment was given by a friend of the program, Pastor Mize, about the validity of using statistics in our arguments against gun control advocates. The reason this came to mind is because of a recent interaction I had on Facebook with someone who was disappointed that I had posted an article about the statistics of mass shootings after the Odessa Midland shooting. We had a civil back and forth, and I explained how frustrating it is to have politicians constantly focusing on quote-unquote assault weapons, or as we accurately call them, modern sporting rifles, when of the 14,000 firearm-related homicides each year, 80% are gang-related, yet politicians never talk about how to mitigate those deaths. I don't think that this person was necessarily convinced of my position, but it furthered the conversation in a healthy way, and it got me thinking about how we, as supporters of the Second Amendment, can change the hearts and minds of the rational, yet misinformed individuals who think the government needs to, quote-unquote, do something. Now, in retrospect, I realized something that I didn't realize before. For those individuals that haven't fallen into the category of the unreachables, we can't start the conversation with statistics because their position isn't based on facts and data, but on emotion. While I was very tempted to respond initially to that person, as Ben Shapiro would say, facts don't care about your feelings, it would have done nothing but drive a wedge further between us and make the prospect of civil discussion impossible. So how do you begin to reach that person whose mind can be changed? You have to appeal to their emotions. And if you start with data, with statistics, they will perceive you as insensitive and uncaring. So how do you appeal to their emotions? Granted, I'm sure there's more than one tactic to deploy, but after thinking about this for the past several weeks, here's my thought on this. First, get their attention by flipping the narrative that's being pushed by Moms Demand Action, the Brady Center, Everytown, leftist politicians, and the rest of the usual anti-Second Amendment suspects. It's quite easy to turn these organizations' rhetoric on its head and use it to your advantage to appeal to that unreachable person's emotions. These organizations brand you and me as a potential danger to society because we own one of these evil black rifles, quote-unquote. You're a reasonable person, a responsible gun owner, a person who cares about the safety and well-being of others, and yet these organizations have branded you and me as dangerous, not to be trusted, and irresponsible. Get the person to see that these proposed gun control and confiscation measures treat you like a common criminal. Imagine the conversation starting off a little something like this. A recent shooting has just taken place, and a co-worker makes the comment, "It's so sad that we've lost so many lives, and yet our politicians still won't do anything." And then you respond, "You know, it is sad." Every time something like this happens, I feel like so many politicians and people in the media want to treat me like the bad guy instead of focusing on changing our culture to respect and cherish life. I just can't understand why there's so much focus on the gun and so little attention given to the actions of the monster who did this. For those unreachable people, I can guarantee that most of them have never thought of it this way. It's never dawned on them that these proposals are always aimed at the law-abiding citizen and treating us like we're just another mass killer in the making, waiting to be pushed far enough to do something so unimaginably evil. Even if they've just met you or only known you a short time, getting them to see you, the reasonable, responsible, upstanding member of civil society, as the person these organizations and politicians are targeting will go a long way in furthering the conversation and getting them to reconsider their positions. Once you've appealed to their emotions and they're willing to think about these matters rationally and with an open mind, then begin to discuss the facts, the statistics, the possible solutions that are aimed at addressing the deviant behavior that's the cause of these horrific shootings, rather than focusing on inanimate objects that millions of Americans are responsibly using on a regular basis. Now, coming full circle, let's go back to the unreachables. In a way, we can make them another tool in our arsenal for changing the minds of the reasonable yet ill-informed. There's something that's called the third-party effect. I'm sure there's other terms for this concept, but that's the term I've heard used for it. When you encounter one of those unreachables, and they engage you in debate over our Second Amendment rights, give them a full dose of facts and statistics. Expose the weaknesses in their arguments and their biased hatred for law-abiding responsible gun owners. When you do this, you're not doing it for the sake of trying to change the mind of that unreachable, but rather you're doing it to change the mind of that other person who's listening in on your conversation. The more unreasonable you show that unreachable true believer to be, the more sound you are in your own arguments, the better chance you have of changing the minds of that third party who's simply observing your debate. In closing, I encourage you to start thinking of how you can engage those reasonable yet ill-informed individuals in a way that appeals first to their emotions, and then as the conversation progresses, to their intellect. Too often when I hear Second Amendment advocates argue for our gun rights, their appeal is on the basis of the Second Amendment, our inalienable rights, the intention of the Founding Fathers, and so forth. Yet the more I think about it, the more I realize that this isn't the way to win the debate with those who are sitting on the fence or just haven't thought this all the way through. Because to that other person, these facts don't matter to them. It's time to change the way we advocate for our cause. And if we're going to change minds, it's going to be by making an emotional appeal and reaching that person on a personal level, rather than by dumping on them a heavy load of statistics right from the start. Yes, we can use statistics and data points and historical facts to our advantage when debating these issues. But if we don't start the conversation by appealing to the emotions of people for whom the topic of gun control is an emotional issue, we'll never get to that next step where they set aside their feelings and consider the facts. That's all for this time. If you'd like to contribute to this conversation and discuss how we might better change minds, join the Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio Facebook page and post your thoughts on this. If you have a topic you'd like me to pontificate on, or an article to Fisk, or a question you'd like me to answer here on the show, send your feedback through the Armed Lutheran Radio feedback page. Thank you for listening, and God's blessings.
John Bennett is the pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in Willow Creek, Minnesota. For more information, visit stjohnswillowcreek.org. For show notes, be sure to visit our website at www.armedlutheran.us. Check out the Facebook page, The Armed Lutheran, or join our Facebook group, Fans of Armed Lutheran Radio. If you like what you hear, please leave us a comment on our feedback page at armedlutheran.us/feedback or a review on iTunes and let us know what you think. Thank you for listening to Armed Lutheran Radio, a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.